See, below the road there is a drain. Also, a mobile tower above the surface of his land. So, how do you think the tower was built above the ground, the drain below the ground, and the road on the ground? After completing this module, you will be able to explain the meaning of surveying, state the objective of surveying. So, you see, there are some objects on, above, and below Vijay's piece of land. Now take a look in and around. You can see many natural and man-made things on the Earth's surface. Some of these things are on the surface. For example, look at these parcels of land. Also, look at these roads, houses, and rivers too. Some are below the surface of the earth. For example, the pipeline's drainage or water are below the surface of the earth. Similarly, there are a few things that are above the surface of the earth. For example, the tower on the hill. Aren't they above the surface of the earth? Now, how do you think the location and area for the construction of these objects was decided? Let us again come back to Vijay's field and the objects in and around his field. First, determine the area or boundary of the location of the tower, the road, and drainage. Then, represent the area of each on a map. We can now see the location of the field in relation to the tower, the road, and the drainage in the map. Thus, the map represents what is where. You can now use this map to measure the distance between the objects. This activity of determining the relative positions of different objects on the surface of the earth by measuring horizontal distances between them is called surveying. Surveying is needed so that you can make a map. Can you see this factory near Vijay's field? Well, 5 years ago, this was a barren piece of land. The government officials decided to build a factory on this piece of land. Few senior land surveyors came to examine the area. They checked whether the surface of the land is sloping or flat, whether there are any fields or other houses around the site. Then they demarcated the area for the factory and made a map for their proposed factory site. On the basis of the land available, they decided on the structure of the factory. With this plan in hand, they were able to realize their dream of building a factory on the demarcated ground. So, the aim of surveying is to prepare a map to show the relative position of the object on the surface of the earth. The map is drawn to a suitable scale. It shows towns, villages, roads, railways. Maps may also include details of different engineering works such as bridges, towers, irrigation canals. Surveying means determining the relative positions of different objects on, above, or below the ground and representing their relative positions on a map. The objective of surveying is the preparation of plans and maps of the areas. These plans and maps are helpful for demarcating the boundaries of land, for laying out the alignment of roads, railways, tunnels, canals, transmission power lines, and microwave or television relaying towers.
After completing this module, you will be able to state the importance of linear measurement in surveying and describe the instruments required for linear measurements. Linear measurement means the measurement of the straight line that joins any 2 points in a place. As you know, surveying helps you in showing the relative positions of objects on the ground. Without knowing the correct linear distance between objects, you cannot show their relative positions accurately. Linear measurement helps you in knowing the correct linear distances between objects in an area which is being surveyed. When you know these correct linear distances, you can show the relative positions of all the objects in the area accurately on a map or plan. Therefore, we can say that the linear measurement in surveying is a task of finding out the correct linear distances between objects. So, linear measurement is essential for accurate surveying. In surveying, the instruments used for taking approximate linear measurement is a chain, and the instrument used for exact linear measurement is called a tape. First, let us take a closer look at the chain. The chain is a kind of a metallic rope. It has these interlinked elements shaped somewhat like the stoppers fixed on windows. Look at the ends of the chain. They contain brass handles with swivel joints. The mechanism prevents the chain from being twisted. The elements are linked to each other by a set of rings. These rings give flexibility to the chain. The chain contains markers called tallies.
Towards camera.
Tallies are pieces of brass shaped like a ring and hung at intervals of 5 feet on the chain. By counting the tallies, the distance can be measured. Now let us take a close look at the tape. As you know, the tape is a long strip of metal or synthetic material that contains markings in standard units such as feet and meters. The tape is used when accurate measurements are required. Tapes are made from metal or fiberglass and are commonly used for direct measurements. The chain is a kind of a metallic rope. It has these interlinked elements shaped somewhat like the stoppers fixed on windows. Look at the ends of the chain. They contain brass handles with swivel joints. The mechanism prevents the chain from being twisted. The elements are linked to each other by a set of rings. These rings give flexibility to the chain. The chain contains markers called tallies.
Towards camera.
Tallies are pieces of brass shaped like a ring and hung at intervals of 5 feet on the chain. By counting the tallies, the distance can be measured. Now let us take a close look at the tape. As you know, the tape is a long strip of metal or synthetic material that contains markings in standard units such as feet and meters. The tape is used when accurate measurements are required. Tapes are made from metal or fiberglass and are commonly used for direct measurements. In this module, you have learnt that correct linear measurements are essential for accurate surveying. In surveying, the two instruments used for linear measurements are chain and tape. The chain is used for measuring in large areas, and the tape is used for measuring in relatively smaller areas. The chain is made of interlinked elements. It has markers called tallies to help us measure lengths. The tape is a long strip with markings in standard units such as feet and meters. A tape can be made with different materials like metal or fiberglass.
You have seen the importance of linear measurement in surveying. When linear measurements are taken along the surface itself of a given site, the method is described as direct measurement. Let's find out what the different means of direct measurement are. After completing this module, you will be able to explain the direct means of linear measurement. You have seen that direct measurement means the physical measurement of distances by using a suitable measuring device over the surface of a region or site. Depending on the location and the requirements of the survey, different means of taking direct measurements are employed. They are pacing, pedometer, odometer, and chaining. Let us take a look at each one of them. Pacing is used only when a surveyor is asked for rough measurements which are needed urgently. In pacing, the surveyor first walks from one point to another while keeping account of his steps. He then multiplies the total number of steps that he has taken between the 2 points with the typical length of his pacing stride, which is already known to him. This product of the number of steps and the length of his pacing stride is the rough measurement of the length between the 2 points. Suppose the typical length of his stride is 2 feet and he has taken 18 steps from one point to another. He multiplies 18 with 2 and estimates that the length of the road is 18 into 2, which is 36 feet. Pacing can be used as a means of direct measurement when the ground is level and without any obstructions. But it is difficult to use pacing over rough ground or when the ground is sloped. So, keep in mind that pacing, which means using the length and number of paces to measure a length, is only a rough means of measurement. It is preferred only when quick estimates of measurements are required. Direct measurement using a pedometer is similar to pacing, the only difference being that the surveyor need not keep account of his paces. Instead, a device called the pedometer keeps the count. A pedometer is a small electronic device. This gadget is capable of keeping account of the steps taken by the surveyor and showing it on its screen. So, the surveyor need not keep account of his paces. Suppose the typical length of his stride is 2 feet, and the pedometer shows a reading of 150, the surveyor multiplies 150 with 2 and estimates that the length of the ground he has walked over is around 300 feet. So, as you can see, the pedometer is a handy little device that you can use to obtain measurements by pacing. It saves you the trouble of keeping account of your direct measurement using a pedometer is similar to pacing, the only difference being that the surveyor need not keep account of his paces. Instead, a device called the pedometer keeps the count. A pedometer is a small electronic device. This gadget is capable of keeping account of the steps taken by the surveyor and showing it on its screen. So, the surveyor need not keep account of his paces. Suppose the typical length of his stride is 2 feet, and the pedometer shows a reading of 150, the surveyor multiplies 150 with 2 and estimates that the length of the ground he has walked over is around 300 feet. So, as you can see, the pedometer is a handy little device that you can use to obtain measurements by pacing. It saves you the trouble of keeping account of your Chaining is a method of direct measurement based on taking measurements with a metal chain of known length. The chain is used when measurement needs to be more accurate than those obtained by pacing or by devices like the pedometer. The chains used in surveying have a fixed length, such as 20 meters or 30 meters. They are all made up of interlinked elements with handles positioned to prevent twisting of the chain. Metal pieces called tallies mark equal divisions of length on the chain. They help in knowing intermediate measurements. So, remember, the chain is used for measurements that have a better degree of accuracy than the rough methods. Chains of lengths such as 20 or 30 meters are used in surveying. In this module, you have learnt that the different means of taking direct measurements are pacing, pedometer, odometer, and chaining. Measurement by pacing is based on the number of steps taken by the surveyor. The pedometer is an electronic device that keeps account of the paces taken by a person. The odometer is a device fitted to a wheel which measures distance based on the number of revolutions of the wheel. The chain is a metallic device used for direct measurement in surveying. Chains of 20 or 30 meters are used in surveying. You have seen that direct measurement means measurements taken over the surface of a site with a suitable measuring device. Sometimes, though, if the survey has to cover many long distances, it is not convenient to use direct means of measurement. Also, some of the ground features or other objects on the site may be too large to be measured directly. In such conditions, we have to rely on indirect means of linear measurements in order to obtain correct surveying data. So, what are the indirect means of linear measurement? Let's find out the answer in this module. Welcome. After completing this module, you will be able to. The two indirect means of linear measurement are by optical means and by using an electromagnetic device. We describe these devices as indirect means of taking linear measurements because we use only a feature of such a device rather than the device itself for taking measurements. While the optical device we use for linear measurement is called theodolite, the electromagnetic device is called total station. Let's first take a look at the theodolite. The theodolite is a combination of devices like the telescope, vertical and horizontal circles, vernier frame, among others. The theodolite can measure horizontal and vertical angles accurately. As a device of indirect measurement, it is typically used to measure the angle of elevation of an object at a known distance so that the object's height can be calculated. It is possible to take such measurements with the theodolite because, while a part of the instrument can be fixed, the other part can be moved in different directions. So, remember, the theodolite is an optical instrument that measures angles with the help of which height of objects can be calculated. Now, let us take a quick look at the total station. The total station is a complex electromagnetic device with a high degree of precision. Some of the important parts of the total station are telescope, bull sight, physical and electronic bubble. It is used in the surveys where very quick and very accurate measurements are required. Also, you can find out the position of different objects from one point in terms of the vertical, horizontal, and frontal or backward distances from that point. So, remember, The total station is a complex electronic device with which you can indirectly measure far-off distances very quickly and very accurately, as well as determine the relative. In this module, you have learnt about the indirect means of linear measurement. Indirect means of taking linear measurements must be employed if the survey has to cover many long distances or if the ground features or objects on the site are too large to be measured directly. The two instruments used for taking indirect linear measurements are theodolite and total station. The theodolite is an optical instrument that measures angles with the help of which height of objects can be calculated. The total.
After completing this module, you will be able to state the role of chaining in direct measurement and identify the instruments for chaining. As you know, direct measurement means physical measurement of distances by using a suitable measuring device over the surface of a region. You have also seen that the two devices used in surveying for measurement of linear distances are chain and tape. The tape is the preferred device when measuring smaller lengths such as the dimensions of fields and housing plots. But let us say a very large area has to be measured. Then, do you think that the tape would be a suitable device? The tape is not suitable for direct measurement of long distances or lengths because it is clumsy to carry around the entire rolled out length of the tape from place to place. Also, if the site to be surveyed is rough terrain, full of stones, mud, or grass, then the tape might get dirty or even damaged in use. In such conditions, the chain is a better option, as it is a metallic object of a fixed length which can be moved along the ground quickly by throwing it around or even dragging it. So, the role of a chain in direct measurement is that of a reliable and hardy measuring device. It is used for direct measurement of long distances or lengths, especially in sites with difficult terrain.
सुप्रभात, नमस्कार। आप सभी दर्शकों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद जो हमारे साथ इस कार्यक्रम में जुड़े हैं। मैं भगवती जमनाल,
मैं दिव्यांशी चौहान आपका सीएससी रूबरू कड़ी में स्वागत करते हैं। इस श्रृंखला में हम हर बार आपके सामने सीएससी द्वारा प्रदान की जा रही